People that have woken up in bed with a stranger, what's your story? When I was 11 I went to my friend's place for a horror movie sleepover night. I woke up with a 4-year-old boy who turned out to be her little brother, clinging to all my blankets in fear. He had eavesdropped on our sleepover after pretending to go to bed early, and was now convinced a killer doll would murder him in his sleep. Their mom made us all hot chocolate and then he slept in her bed all night. I was taking a train from Munich to Venice. It was one of those trains that the little rooms have chairs that pull out into beds. An older Italian gentleman came in the room and as the train took off he made the sleep hand gesture. So I crashed out with this old dude. I woke up to him tapping me letting me know we will be in Venice after the next stop. I was around 19 years old and at a weekend festival where most people camped out in tents. I got hammered and blacked out on Saturday and woke up on an air mattress in somebody else's tent. I sat up to get my bearings at some point in the morning and a couple was also in the tent, but not laying on the air mattress. The guy sat up right after me and said, "Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you better get the fuck out of here." I didn't stick around to ask any questions. Not really woke up with a stranger. But I did wake up on a stranger's couch once. Looked around and sat up to see a woman staring at me. I was startled and realized I had no idea who this woman was. Then realized I was only in my underwear, so I half covered up and she asked who I was. I said my name and asked where Jill was, the girl I thought I went to see. She looked confused for a second before bursting out laughing. Turns out Jill's neighbor didn't lock her door and I was obviously very drunk. I ended up making a sandwich and drinking half a carton of orange juice before hitting the couch. Thank God she was so nice. Skylar, if you're reading this, thank you for not calling the cops. Ha. This reminds me of the dude who showed up on the couch of my apartment in college and stayed for weeks. I had 3 roommates who I wasn't really close with and I basically only slept at this place, so I assumed the guy was a friend of one of the other 3. I'd stop in to eat or grab stuff and there he'd be, in his underwear, often playing video games, that belonged to my roommates, on the couch. About a week of this goes by and one of my roommates finally approached me and asks how long my friend will be staying on the couch and also if I could talk to him and request that he ask before playing my roommate's video games. I respond, I don't know the guy. I thought he was your or Justin's friend. Nope. We go to the 4th roommate and ask him and he didn't know him either. So we all have a little conference to decide how to approach it. Being that I didn't spend much time there, I said I didn't care how they handled it but because I thought the whole situation was hilarious, and I respected the guy in a weird way. If it were totally up to me, I wouldn't say anything at all, just to see how it would end without our intervention. Would he stay? For how long? Would he slowly try to gain power? Anyway, so I leave it up to them and go about my way. Couple days go by and clearly, no one has spoken to him because he's still there. Finally, a beautiful thing happened. I came home to find him playing video games with 2 of the roommates. They were interacting like old pals. This went on for about another week or 2, the couch drifter getting on swimmingly with my other roommates, then one day he was just gone. No goodbyes, no drama. Just gone. I think about that guy a lot, the balls to just walk into an occupied apartment and take over the couch and TV. Must have slept on our couch for a good month or 2. Not me but a neighbor was a member of a fraternity and they all went downtown and got completely wasted. He doesn't remember how he got separated from his buddies but woke up in a very soft bed not knowing where he was. He saw a large fluffy flowered bathrobe on the back of the door and put it on. He heard some voices and walked towards them. He walked into the dining room and there was an all-black family smiling in relief at him. My neighbor was a southern white guy. They were all eating breakfast and the father pulled out a chair right beside him and made him a heaping plate of scrambled eggs, grits, toast, and bacon. My neighbor had left the bar in a drunken state and had come upon their car and passed out in their backseat. Thankfully, all ended up okay. He kept in touch with that family for a long time afterward. Away at college. Went to a bar, met a girl. I woke up the next morning in an on-campus apartment sharing a recliner with said girl. Neither of us lived on campus or knew who lived in the apartment we ended up at. I know a guy who went home with a stranger. Went pee in the middle of the night naked. Went back to bed. Woke up to screaming. He had gone back to the wrong room and was naked in her mother's bed. Probably not what you imagined. As a kid, I would sleepwalk at night. In the morning, I would have no recollection of what happened. I spent the night at a friend's house when I was about 10, and the family had a fire going in the fireplace in their living room. My friend's mom decided to sleep on the couch to make sure the fire went out, and the dad went to sleep in the parents' bedroom. Due to the door to their bedroom always being closed, I had never been inside. which was very, very disorienting the next morning when I awoke in said bedroom, as the dad was just waking up and getting out of his bed. He had assumed during the night I was his son, and didn't question anything when I slipped into bed with him. Kudos to dad for not making it any more awkward than it already was. And that's the story of how I woke next to my friend's dad. My freshman year roommate warned me on day one that he was a sleepwalker. A few months later I woke up to a weird smell, rolled over, and saw him standing in front of the microwave watching a whole loaf of bread spin around inside. As the plastic melted and smoke billowed out in his face, I yelled, "Dude, what the fuck?" He said, direct quote, "It's fine," and just got back in bed. I ran over and opened the microwave to shut it off. 30 seconds later fire alarms are blaring and the whole building is being evacuated. We get downstairs and I shit you not, he looks at me and says, "I bet some dumb fucker burnt popcorn again." I don't know how the dude even made it to 18 without killing himself. Not as raunchy as some of the stories, but a friend of mine in college woke up in some random girl's bed that she didn't know. She was so drunk that she thought it was her dorm room, and the door was open, so she got in the bed and slept. When she woke up there was a note next to her that said something like, "Hey, I don't know who you are, but you were really asleep last night? Don't worry, it's cool if you crash here. I was going to spend the night at my boyfriend's. Just please make sure you close the door when you leave. P.S. I left you a glass of water on the nightstand." Apparently, that girl came back to her room and found my friend passed out on her bed. She decided to be really nice and let her sleep it off. Got really drunk in Vegas. Some girl with her friends insisted on going up to my room. I kept telling her she didn't have to, but she kept saying, "Let's go, let's go." We kissed twice, then she immediately passed out in my bed, so I did the same, with all of our clothes on. I woke up a few hours later, still in a half-drunk state, having completely forgotten about her. Looked over and my brain was like, WTF? Where am I? I quickly remembered and went back to sleep. Woke up a few hours later and she was gone. While still living at my parents' house, woke up after a club night. It was still a bit dark, but I saw someone next to me in my bed. Spent 15 minutes trying to figure who this was before I decided to take a look. Turns out it was my extra blankets I used to fill up the space between bed and wall. Decided I needed a lot more sleep before going out of bed. Woke up, didn't remember his name, pretend to ask for his messenger so that I could get his name again. Next month will be our 4th anniversary. Lolo God, wish this hasn't happened as often as it has. As a tiny female, I'm lucky to be alive. One specifically stands out. I was out drinking with my dad, he was in town visiting, uncle, and my brothers. Across from our table are these two guys visiting from Tennessee. At some point, my uncle starts chatting with them and invites them to join our table. One is very Matthew McConaughey-like, so naturally, I'm trying to be subtlety flirtatious. I drank a lot that night, to the point that I'm pretty spotty on leaving the bar. Or even the fact that my family just let me leave with these two random guys. I woke up in their hotel room. Turns out it was 7 guys sharing the room. And I had the entire bed to myself. They even put the comforter over me while a couple had the other bed and the rest slept on the floor. One of the dudes even went and got breakfast for us all, including me. They tried to convince me to go to the Fish concert that they were in town for, but I had to work. Not a bed but kind of an abandoned trailer in the middle of the desert. Found shelter, slept in it, woke up there was another person in there. They didn't know I was in there either. When I stood up and looked around they were staring at me all wide-eyed and clearly freaked out. I didn't know what to do and we just looked at each other for a little bit. I don't know what to say so I offered her some corn nuts. We both laughed at that and then we shortly left without asking any questions. That's the closest I ever got to a one-night stand. Not woke up with one but came home from primary school around 11 years of age. To find a complete stranger in my bed. Being completely naive thinking he was a family friend. I made us both sandwiches to give to him. I returned to my room to find him gone. I now look back at this with complete horror. My family finds it amusing that it took me years to tell my family about it. How about the opposite? I was out drinking with this girl and her friends I had just met, ended up going back to their hotel room and hooking up, fell asleep around 3 a.m. Woke up around 5 a.m. with a bad hangover and completely alone. Somewhere between 3 and 5 the girl and her friends packed their shit and checked out of the hotel while I was asleep. How many kidneys did you have left? I woke up to the sound of rain hitting the tent I was in, not my tent, and the random guy next to me saying, "Oh fuck. My unicycle." Well, I did, but not in the way that you'd think. So basically I went to sleep in my friend's bed because he got on the sofa and I woke up with a girl next to me. We didn't do anything the night before because multiple people have reported that they saw her coming into the room and just laying down next to me telling them that I was her boyfriend, which I wasn't, and then going to sleep. She may have confused me for her boyfriend, and when I woke up I just snuck out and went home. I used to date this really shitty guy. We lived together for 5 years, and in that time some hella dicey shit happened. But this one makes the top 5. It was a Sunday night. Around 2 a.m., I was asleep in bed when I'm woken by that feeling of someone staring at me. Assuming it's my then boyfriend, I'd tell him I'm trying to sleep and don't want to have sex. Then I hear a laugh I'd never heard before. I fly out of bed and there's this guy sitting on the edge of my bed laughing his ass off. I ask who he is. He says I'm Andrew, boyfriend's buddy. Then he tells me how my ex told him I was a prude and would be mad if he came in our bed, but he didn't believe my ex cause boyfriend was so cool. Why would he date a boring girl? Then he asked if I wanted some coke. I walked out and told my ex to get rid of him and let me sleep since I worked in the morning. His reply: well, now that you're up, can you take us to McDonald's? Got really drunk at a dorm party. Ended up carrying a passed out girl up to her room, 3 flights of stairs, elevator was out. Plunked her in her bed, took her shoes off. Then passed out on her floor. She woke me up by stepping on me and yelling at me. I was too hungover to argue and just left. Got a story? Share it with us in the comments section.